Alicia Immatteo's third Toastmasters speech. Last week, her response to the table topic she was given introduced us to her Cuban heritage, but in particular her father, Sergio Aguilera, and the pride he felt of being an American. June 6th would have been his 81st birthday. Today she will tell you how his passing at the turn of the century, combined with other profound, tragic events, brought her to enlightenment regarding God's plan and living for today in her 7 to 10 minute speech titled, The Turn of the Century. Please welcome Alicia Immatteo.
In the first 2 years of our current century, it impacted many lives. It was a turning point for many, as folks recount stories of pre-9/11 and post-9/11. For me, the years 2000 and 2001 became a turning point on a very personal level. For one, I lost my father to pancreatic cancer in April of 2001. Second, I could have lost my husband, a New York City firefighter, on 9/11, and all this happened while I was pregnant with our second child. These events started a cascade that taught me what carpe diem meant and allowed me to grow spiritually, to teach me to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not on my understanding. Papi is what I called my dad until the day he died. I was an only child and definitely Daddy's little girl. My father was a Cuban-born American who renounced his Cuban citizenship and vowed to never step foot in Cuba again. My dad was the son of a cattle farmer and a kindergarten teacher. He was born in Iammatteo, Cuba. He was an outdoorsman, a hunter, fisherman, a friend. He had an amazing sense of humor, loved to dance, laugh, and make others dance. He was the life of the party. Papi was a hard worker. He worked 12 to 16 hours a day as a longshoreman at Port Newark, New Jersey. I remember clearly he would say, "When I retire, I'm going to move to Miami. When I retire, I'm going to get back on a horse again and start riding horses." He always kept adding on to that saying of "when I retire." Well, unfortunately, in the spring of 2000, 3 months before his retirement, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This turned our lives upside down, right side up, twists and turns like a roller coaster, the way any diagnosis of cancer does. He and my mom were in the process of selling their home in New Jersey so they could move to Miami. They never moved to Miami, but he did get to sell the house and stayed locally so he could continue his treatment for his cancer at Sloan Kettering Memorial in New York City. My husband, John, of now 27 years, became the son my dad never had. They went fishing together, hunting, week-long hunting trips, told each other stories, and would shoot the breeze. They truly enjoyed each other. By the time my dad was diagnosed, my husband, John, had 7 years of being a New York City firefighter in Coney Island, New York. It was his dream job, a dream that started when he was about 5 years old, living in Staten Island, one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. He would hear sirens and he would think, "I want to ride on a fire truck and I want to help people, maybe someday." Although he graduated from Rutgers, had owned 2 businesses and became a financial consultant with Shearson & Lehman Brothers, his dream was to become a New York City firefighter. In 1993, 1 year after we were married, his dream came true. He graduated from The Rock, the FDNY Fire Academy, and was assigned to ladder 161 in Coney Island, New York. The job, as they call it, was all he had hoped for and more. In 2000, we sold our home in his hometown, Staten Island, to move to the country to a beautiful little town called Warwick in Orange County, New York. We found what we thought was our dream home, overlooking the Catskill Mountains, perched high up on a hill with lots of wildlife and trails, clean air, and a wraparound porch to take it all in. My dream was for my mom and dad to move in with us so my dad could have the best last few weeks or months enjoying the wildlife he always loved. How perfect. Once we were under contract, John put in his papers to transfer to Rescue 5. It's an elite rescue company that actually goes in when firefighters need help. Prior to our closing date, John's captain advised him that he had been approved for the transfer, so he was good to go. John advised his captain that he wanted to wait to transfer companies until we had finished closing on our house and moving in. A decision I truly believe was God-given. With cancer and real estate deals, there are lots of ups and downs, heartaches, and elation. We ended up losing that dream home due to an unethical agent and the homeowner. We tried everything we could to get that house, knowing that my dad only had a few weeks or months to live. We didn't get it, the search continued. My dad passed on April 27, 2001, fully knowing that I was carrying our first son, a son that reminds me every day so very much in his looks, his humor, and his hard-headedness. Fast forward 4 months to 9/11/2001. I was at work in Philadelphia, 7 months pregnant, and we heard the unimaginable. The first tower was hit. We went to the conference room, turned on the TV, and we sat there in awe as we saw the second tower hit. Within minutes, my cell phone was ringing, and I knew it was my husband who had the day off. He was at home. And I answered the call, and he said, "Allie, I'm gonna have to go in because they're calling all FDNY personnel to go into ground zero." And I begged and pleaded for him not to go, and he said, "Allie, if I was in those towers, wouldn't you want my brothers to be there to help me?" And I said, "Of course I would. Just wait for me to get home so I can give you a hug." So I immediately got into my car, drove through Philadelphia, on the way home, also worrying because the bridges in Pennsylvania, they were saying they were going to be closing them because United Airline 93 was missing. I made it home, I gave him a really big hug, and he left. He was there at ground zero for 3.5 days straight. He continued. He was part of the rescue team that also extricated Port Authority police officer Will Immatteo, one of the last 2 survivors that were pulled out of the rubble. He continued to do search and rescue, which turned into a recovery effort for the next month and a half, going in every other 24 hours. Only to stop because I was getting close to my due date, and I asked them to stop because they used to use buses to transport them in and out. You couldn't just drive your car in. There are thousands of miraculous and tragic stories surrounding 9/11. If you recall, John did not want to transfer to Rescue 5 until we closed on that dream home we really wanted. We ended up never closing on that house. John never transferred to Rescue 5. We found out that tragically, every single firefighter on duty at Rescue 5 died that day on 9/11. Along with the other 343 New York City firefighters that had their last tour that day. In retrospect and in conclusion, I have gone through these very difficult years, and the 2 most important things that I personally saw and that I learned was, 1, although you may want something so badly, like the dream home I desperately wanted to give my dad, I need to trust God knows best and always pray for His will, not mine. And 2, never leave things that you want to do or accomplish until you retire, because you may never get there. Therefore, make the plans, set those plans in motion, and seize the day.